Outlast is a game I'm sure that many of you are familiar with. It's a classic survival horror that has you running and hiding from your enemies, as you have no way to defend yourself. Just you and your camera. For many, I'm sure Outlast is scary enough as is, but today I'll be tackling the scariest challenge it has to offer, beating the game on insane difficulty. For those that don't know, this is Outlast's permadeath mode. 1 to 2 hits from any of the enemies will send me right back to the beginning. There is an achievement known as Energizer on the console versions of Outlast for beating insane without ever reloading your camera, but seeing as how the PC version doesn't include this achievement, I will also be tackling the DLC on Insane for the Lunatic and Bowel Whistler achievements. With all of that being said, let us begin the run. We play as Miles Upshur, an investigator who receives an anonymous email about strange things happening at this asylum, and he tries to see what could possibly be going on here. We can climb up a scaffold on the side of the building and make our way in through a window. Once inside, Miles doesn't have to explore much before realizing he probably shouldn't be here. He comes across a room with the dead security guards in it, which may be hard to see, but trust me, this room is full of bodies. Right outside of the room, I get grabbed by one of the main enemies who I will just be referring to as Piggy. And even though I knew this was coming, I somehow managed to get jump scared. I don't know if he's scripted to go into that room or if I try to run by him quickly, if he'll turn around and grab me. Because why did I just get scared, dude? This game. After being tossed off the second floor like a rag doll, we're introduced to the priest of the asylum who intends for us to witness the madness occurring inside these walls.
I see. Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle. Guard your life, son. You have a calling.
The priest shuts off the power to the building to prevent Miles from leaving, and then we have to go into the basement to turn the power back on, which is when we will have our first of many encounters with an enemy. Outlast's formula consists of going through the levels, grabbing a key, turning valves, or flipping switches, all while being chased by an enemy. You have the option to hide, but thankfully there's a way to abuse doors in this game with all the enemies. We'll get to that in a second. I hit 2 switches which turn on the gas pumps, then I immediately run to a door where I know the enemy will be coming from. Now for the fun part. As soon as an enemy breaks down a door, you have a brief window to sprint past them without colliding with them and being hit, which you can see me do here. I flip the breaker, turn on the power, and make my way back to the security office, and honestly, for a security office, the game never lets you feel safe here. Because as soon as Miles makes his second attempt of unlocking the front doors of the building, the priest drugs us, proceeds to tell us,
There is so much yet for you to witness.
and then throws us in a cell. After escaping the cell, I go down the drain, where I have to do a little dance to get an inmate's attention. Come here. Come here. I lead him to a door to do the thing I mentioned earlier. Then I press a button to open up a decontamination chamber and leave these suckers behind. Do you think you're gonna hit me? After this, we make our way into the sewers of the asylum where Piggy shows up again to try and catch us. Down here, we have to turn 2 valves that will flush the water out of the lower junction of the sewer. After turning these valves, I do a little dance in the water so Piggy gets distracted. Hold on, let me try to attract him over this way. Once he's out of the way, I can run to the ladder that leads to the lower junction. And after making my way through the dark sewers, I find myself in the male ward. When we first arrive here, we are immediately chased by a group of inmates. After a short chase sequence, we are invited into a dumbwaiter by a mysterious voice claiming safety for us. But as soon as we get to the top, we realize once again we are never safe in this game. This is where we are introduced to Traeger, a former doctor that is now an inmate. Traeger is insane just like the rest of the people in here, but he seems to have more of a grasp on reality than most of the inmates.
Witness or whatever. You must be exhausted. Huh? Let's take a break, huh, buddy? The old 2-martini lunch? Have a little confab, blah blah. Heavier than you look. A little cardio in there. Okay, here we go. Arms and legs inside the car at all times.
He straps us into a wheelchair and begins to push us through the halls.
Thanks so much for coming by. We'll begin your consultation. Just a second to wash up and
Eventually, he takes us into a bathroom and shows us his cheeks, but I have to inform him that I'm just not interested.
that's what I'm here.
He's not too pleased with my response though, and he begins to cut off a few of my fingers.
You paying attention? Don't pass that on me. There's still a lot for you to absorb. Better now, right?
After escaping the chair, I run through the mail ward to steal a key that I will need for the elevator. As soon as I grab the key, Traeger shows up and I realize that I've forgotten the path back to the elevator. So I decide to hide in a bathroom until I think he's left the area, but as soon as I go to open the door, he comes right into my personal space. Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about! What the oh, he's not a one-shot, but I'm stuck. The moment I opened the door, was he just standing there or what? I couldn't hear him. I was waiting for him to come, like, oh. So, yeah, I died here. You know what that means. Back to the beginning I go. I wasn't too bothered by this, though, since I knew that I could get back there relatively quickly. It's alright. It's relatively early in the game. On the next attempt, I make my way back to the exact same spot, but this time I knew exactly what I had to do. I grab the key and lure Traeger into a nearby room, where I loop him around a few beds and make a break for the elevator. Once inside the elevator, we have one last struggle with Traeger.
I'm not giving up on you.
But thankfully, he forgot to follow the safety rules and actually gets crushed in between the elevator and the floor below him. After getting out of the elevator, we make our way through the asylum a little bit more before finding ourselves in a cafeteria that an inmate has lit on fire.
I had to burn it. All of it.
We are then tasked with turning on the sprinkler system before we can get through this cafeteria. I'll give you guys a moment to guess who it is that shows up in my way again. If you guessed the piggy, then you are absolutely correct. I try to convince him that I don't have any bacon to give him. However, he doesn't really believe me, so I run past him and escape his grasp by squeezing through a gap that he could only dream of fitting through. I turn the last valve to turn on the sprinklers and make my way back through the cafeteria that is no longer on fire. Now that we've made it safely away from Piggy... Oh, right. I forgot. We're never safe here. Anyways, after being rudely knocked over by that inmate, we make our way into the courtyard of the asylum. Grab a key from a shed, and unlock a door where we are soon greeted by the wall rider. I have to cut our greetings short though, since I don't really have time for chit-chat. Sorry, wall rider. After doing some parkour on the rooftops, which I've cut out for the sake of this video due to the outside areas in this game being extremely dark, we find ourselves in another courtyard area where we come face to face with Piggy yet again. I lure him around these benches and run to another small space that he's just not able to follow us through. Once on the other side, we climb through a window and find ourselves in a new wing of the asylum, the female ward. Upon entering the female ward, we see the priest above us, who wants us to meet him upstairs. To get to him, though, we first need to get a key that unlocks the gated door to the stairs. The game has us fetch 3 fuses that allow us to power up a laundry chute that contains said key. However, each of these fuses are guarded by an inmate, because they think these are holy items or something. I don't really know why the hell they care so much about the fuses, but nonetheless, I need them more than they do. My plan was to just pick these up and dash to the next one as fast as possible. I make my way through the halls and pick up the first fuse, but have to take a hit from the inmate that spawns behind me since there's just no way to avoid him. Once I pick up the next one, I'm able to use a door to my advantage and avoid being hit, thankfully. And the last one is exactly the same. Now that I have all the fuses, I can insert them, activate the chute which drops the key down, and then run back downstairs to retrieve it. Once we grab the key, we're able to head up to the 3rd floor. Up here, there's a part where Miles drops his camera. Like, come on, Miles, there's a hand strap on there for a reason. Maybe use it next time. Anyways, seeing as how that's our only way of navigating the dark, we're forced to retrieve it. As soon as we're reunited with our camera, the moment is spoiled by some inmates that just hate the sight of technology, I guess. They must skip their cardio though, because they're pretty easy to get away from. Back upstairs with our camera in hand again, we're able to get through the dark hallway where there's a sneaky hole that can kill you if you don't jump over it. I'm able to make it over this hole, but sadly I make a huge mistake here. Oh, no, no, no! That kills me. I pressed jump. Yep, that's right. I missed the last jump of this section. If I would have made it there, I would have been in the home stretch of the game, so as you can tell, I was a little upset by this death. I thought you could grab the ledge if you fall there, but I was sorely mistaken. I ended up calling it here on the attempts for the night and gave it another go the following day. The first attempt of the next day, I managed to get back to the exact same spot, and this time I timed my jump properly. Now that we're finally in the last part of the game, we're told by an inmate that we have to see the movie in order to get the key we'll need to reach Father Martin. So naturally we make our way to the theater, but I intend on completely skipping this so-called movie that the priest wants us to watch, because I'm just not interested in whatever freaky stuff he's got going on. Instead, I head up to the projector room, which is where the key is, but one of the priest's disciples, doesn't like the fact that we're not enjoying the show they had planned for me. He runs off to snitch to the father that we didn't watch the movie like I was supposed to. Nevertheless, I grab the key, unlock another door just to get back to the 3rd floor, and finally make my way up to the chapel. Here, the priest gives us the key to the elevator, and then proceeds to light himself on fire in the name of the wall rider. I'm sure he's fine though. We're able to take the key and ride the elevator down to what we assume is our freedom. But as we reach the lobby, we realize that that's not the case. Unable to do anything but watch, the elevator descends even deeper under the asylum, taking us to the final chapter of the game, the underground laboratory. As we make our way through the tunnels, our #1 fan shows up one final time. Before getting turned to bacon bits by the wall rider. After this happens, we begin to hear a voice beckon for us, so we go to see who it could be. We find an old man in a wheelchair named Dr. Wernicke. He rambles on for a bit about how he's the one that founded the experiments going on here. Long story short, he asks us to kill a man named Billy, who is the one controlling the wall rider. Turns out, the wall rider isn't a ghost or anything like that at all. It's a mass of nanobots that can only be controlled by someone who is in a lucid state. With this knowledge in hand, our new objective is to unplug Billy's life support, bringing an end to the wall rider. Speaking of the wall rider though, he comes for us soon after our conversation with Wernicke. Luckily, I'm able to easily run past him and make my way to the main laboratory. Once here, we need to shut off the life support fluid system and cut off the power. I turn the valve for the fluid and start heading for the generator. There's a super long set of stairs we have to run up, which I've cut out to save you from watching me go up like 100 flights of stairs. But once we reach the top, we jump across a gap and sprint for the power supply, ignoring the scary sounds going on behind us. I go through one last decontamination room and pull the plug on Billy's life support. However, the life pod he's in has a failsafe system, so there's one final thing to do. Head back to the central room and deactivate the failsafe. When I go back to jump across the gap, I get tossed around by the wall rider before being dropped to the ground. I have no clue how Miles can just get back up after a fall like this, but nonetheless, I make my final sprint for the terminal that will officially end the run. With the life support system now shut off, we expect that to be the last of the wall rider, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It attacks us one final time before, entering Miles's body. Yeah. Anyways, Miles tries to shake off his injuries and finally escape the asylum. But on his way out, he's stopped by none other than the man who asked us to kill Billy for him. Now accompanied by armed guards, Wernicke orders for us to be shot and killed. Only to reveal that Miles is now, in fact, the new host for the Walrider as the screen fades to black. And the credits roll. Finally, our achievement pops. It's Lunatic. Finish the game in insane mode. However, we're not done yet because it's time to tackle Whistleblower. So I just want to say that this DLC begins with what I feel like has to be one of the weirdest openings to any game, let alone a DLC. We're woken up by a slap in the face from a doctor wearing a hazmat suit, and he then begins to lick our ear. I don't know why he feels the need to moan while doing this, but this guy's clearly a weirdo. Our character passes out again, and the game cuts to 2 hours earlier. It's here that we learn that we are the person who sent Miles the email at the beginning of the main game, hence why this DLC is called Whistleblower. We are Waylon Park, a technician at Mount Massive Asylum who works on the device we saw at the end of the main game.
They've paged for you 3 times already. There's something urgent at the end.
He witnesses some things he didn't really sign up for though, which is why he sent the email to Miles. We see a patient begging for help before getting put into one of the life pods.
Help me! Don't let them do this! Don't let them! You! I know you can stop this! You have to help me! You have to! Hey! Calm yourself. This is a high security...
It's all right, Agent. Mr. Park was just surprised. I'm sure he's still calm and eager to finish his work.
Waylon is urged to finish his programming, and we see the patient appear on the screen, now shoved full of tubes. Once our job is done, we're told that we need to leave now, so we head back to grab our laptop. However, sending an email from what I can only assume is a highly secure network didn't really go unnoticed.
Somebody's been telling stories outside of class. On the floor!
We're cornered by security and knocked out.
Maybe you could administer Mr. Park here a light anesthetic.
Gladly.
Now, if you ask me, that's not a very light anesthetic, but either way, we're given the title card and the DLC officially starts. We wake up again, strapped to a chair, but the restraints unlock thanks to a power failure. We're able to grab a camera in front of us before being let out of our cell. I make my way through the halls where I am immediately chased by some crazy inmates that have also escaped their cells. I'm able to escape through a vent and continue through the asylum. We arrive at a security office to unlock a decontamination chamber where we witness a doctor get attacked by one of the inmates. Soon after this, I need to grab a key and unlock this gate that someone has been handcuffed to. I'm able to find this key and unlock the gate, and this is where I'm introduced to a cannibal who intends on making me his next meal.
Stay there and cook.
He shoves me into a furnace, but with no plans of being cooked alive, I'm able to break out through the back wall. After escaping the furnace, we have a short encounter with the cannibal, where we have to turn off some gas that is filling up all the decontamination rooms. I turn off the gas valves and run right past him, making sure to taunt him over the fact that he can't catch his prey. I slam a door in his face as one last F you before escaping to the courtyard. After a brief run outside, we climb up into a prison tower to use a radio, but before we're able to contact anyone, the head of security from earlier smashes the radio and tries to choke us to death.
Whalen Park. You couldn't just.
However, something seems to scare him off, and soon after we find out exactly what.
Do me a favor and die here, Park.
So, yeah, Piggy makes an appearance in the DLC, and this was the only time he got me. I think I got stuck on the cabinet or something, but either way, I didn't let this stop me. I made it back here on the next run, but this time I didn't do this jerk any favors.
Do me a favor and die here, Park.
I managed to slip past Piggy and continue on, and it's here that we see Father Martin making the blood writings on the wall. For those that don't know, the DLC is taking place at the exact same time as the main game, but sadly we never run into Miles. After giving the priest a wave, I head upstairs and try to make a jump to the roof. Just barely missing, I fall back down into an unknown part of the asylum. And this is when we're introduced to our final threat of the DLC, the Groom. I have to push this locker out of the way of the door, but just barely don't push it far enough. Thankfully, he never runs, so I loop him through these rooms before heading back to the door. Once I make it past him, I try to climb the ladder in the elevator shaft, and unfortunately it breaks and Waylon falls down, injuring his leg in the process. There's a scripted part here where we have to hide in a locker, but the groom finds us,
Can't hide from me.
knocks the locker over, drags us away, and puts us to sleep with gas.
Darling, this will help you relax.
We wake up 12 hours later and find out exactly why he's called the groom.
I need you to try to bleed less.
He cuts other inmates' parts off in an attempt to make them his bride. And as you can imagine, this never works, as the men he does this to just bleed to death. I'd like to take this time to quickly mention that this guy just so happens to be the very same man we saw begging for help in the beginning, named Eddie Gleskin, who has gone insane from all the experiments.
So sorry, darling. Love.
Understandably, Waylon passes out again because of what he just saw. When we wake up, we find that it's our turn to become the bride, so I react exactly how I feel Waylon would in this situation, by flailing my head around as that's the only thing he's able to do. Thankfully, another inmate saves us and we're able to escape the saw table. Waylon puts his clothes back on and grabs his camera, which no longer has any batteries due to Eddie removing them. Luckily, we won't be needing any batteries because we're in the home stretch. For the remainder of the DLC, we will have a limp since our leg was injured earlier. Eddie quickly loses interest in the other inmate and comes back for us. After using a table to juke him and jumping out of a window, we come to a room with the key we need to leave the asylum. The groom shows up as soon as we grab the key, so I lead him into another room with a bookshelf I can use to get around him. I sprint past him through a gym full of his past victims that he hung, and I'm able to climb into a vent with him dangerously close behind me. After this, we go to the doors that lead to our escape, but unsurprisingly, Eddie is insistent that if he can't have us, no one can.
One more. I try, and I try. You all.
He throws us back into the gym and begins to hang us from the ceiling alongside all the other bodies. I'm not exactly sure what the fuck happens here, but I'm assuming there's too much weight hanging from the ceiling.
God damn it, what are you? Ah! No! Damn it, darling! No, you need to behave! Ah! No!
Which causes a pipe to crash down and impale Eddie.
We could have been beautiful.
With our final threat gone, we're able to take a victory lap through the asylum. While running through the lobby, we see our old friend, the head of security.
Mr. Park.
As soon as we try to leave, he stabs us because, of course he does. Can't have any information getting out now, can we?
No one can know! No one!
To our surprise, the wall rider shows up and saves us.
God! Oh, Christ in heaven! How to get out! No! No! No, please! No! No! No!
Thankful to be alive, Waylon gets up and finally sets foot outside. We find that Miles's Jeep is still where he left it, so we get inside. As we go to start the engine, we actually get to see who we know can only be Miles follow us out of the asylum with the dark aura of the Wall Rider surrounding him. Waylon steps on it and drives through the gate, finally free of the nightmare. The achievement pops as the credits roll, officially bringing the insanity to an end. This was my first time working on an achievement video like this, and it was an absolute blast. I'm currently working on Wolfenstein 2 as the next one, so feel free to subscribe and get notified when that goes up. If you enjoyed the video, I stream all of these achievement runs live over on Twitch, so come hang out and watch me suffer if you want. With that, I'll see you guys in the next one.